All right. Thank you all for coming. Thank myself. This chus that I have to come and be part of this Yarchikala. So the topic is Inyana D'Yoma. Inyana D'Yoma is really it applies throughout the year. Nothing special specifically about today, but a little bit of it has to do is tomorrow the new president-elect as of now. Tomorrow will be the new president, will be official president. So in halacha, one of the big questions is regarding a bracha when you see a president, or for that matter, a prime minister, or any other person that's in public office, a queen, etc. So there are a number of questions on this subject. We'll go through. We'll start with 5 questions on the subject matter, and then we'll go through the Gemara and some of the tshuvas, response about the subject. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer: I teach Bachrim in yeshiva, and my English is not the best English, so I don't know how to pronounce certain words. I know how to spell them, but I don't know. So, Rabbi William said people here are very educated, so you'll help me out in the words that I don't know. Rabbi Sherpin does Chabad.org, so he's probably learned it over time. You have an editor. So he also, Baruch Hashem. So if I have any mispronunciations, he'll help me out with those. In any event, so question number 1 is, do we make a bracha on the President of the United States? Question number 2 is, if we do make a bracha on him, so... Why the him? As of now, it's a him. Could have been, but it's not. Another question is, if we do make a bracha on him, do we make that bracha when we see him through television or through any kind of live hookup or videos, or does it have to be if you're seeing him in person? Number 3 is, do you make a bracha on a president that is no longer serving in office, someone that was a president in the past, and tomorrow that will change, so then, so to speak, today, if you will see President Obama, the question will be, tomorrow if you'll see, what's he called? The outgoing president? Former president, that's it, thank you. So the question is, you make a bracha on the former president. Another question is there a point in trying to see him? We know that there is a mitzvah to make to say 100 brachas a day. So if tomorrow someone, for whatever reason, has an emergency in Washington, D.C., and he's missing brachas, so is there a point in him trying to go to inauguration and maybe make 2 brachas, one for the outgoing president, one for the ingoing president? And so is there a point in trying to go see? And then the final question is, what is the actual bracha that one has to make? And as we'll see, that could have been a subject of debate if 2 ifs would have had to happen. One if is that instead of the Republican Party winning, will be the Democratic Party. The second is if the Democratic nominee would have been different. Meaning if Bernie Sanders would have won the primaries and then the elections, then the question would be, what bracha do you make? And that is because he is a Jew. And when it's a Jewish king, the halacha is different, although he's serving in a secular office. So those are the questions we'll discuss. So we'll start off with the Gemara and Brachas, Daf Nun Chesam.
Can I add one more question?
Yes.
If you're going to say that a prime minister, you make a bracha. If you're going to say that, what's if a person works for the prime minister? He sees him every day.
Right, I guess we'll touch upon that as well. We get to that bracha.
Okay, we'll add some salt to the wound.
We have a president like in Israel, a president and a prime minister.
President, Prime Minister, I'm going to need help over here, and when we'll be done, it might come out. Is anybody here from Florida?
Originally?
Georgia?
Yeah.
All right, so then you might have to make a bracha on your governor and not on the president. How about that? What? Okay, so let's go. Let's start the sugya, and then we'll hopefully get through all the questions.
What's so special about the governor
of Georgia?
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to it. And I'm again, this is all based on my understanding of the law, but it could be I'm wrong. Okay, so it all starts with the Gemara in Brachas Daf Nun Chesam Aleph. The Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanan, Araya Chachma Yisrael, someone who sees the scholars, Jewish scholars, Eimer Baruch Shechalak Mechachmasa Liyireyav, he makes the bracha. Blessed is the one that partook. He gave out, not gave. He he shared, thank you. He shared from his wisdom to those that fear him. Chachmei Evdei Kechavim, someone who sees non-Jewish scholars. Eimer Baruch Shenosan Mechachmasi Libri Yosef. Blessed is he that he gave from his wisdom to his creations. The Braisa continues. Haraya Malchei Yisrael, someone who sees Jewish kings. Eimer Baruch Shecholak Mikvayde Lireyav. Blessed is he who shared his honor with those that fear him. Malchei Evdei Kechavim, someone who sees non-Jewish kings. Eimer Baruch Shenosan Mikvayde Libri Yosef. Blessed is he who gave from his honor to his creatures. Amar Rabbi Yochanan continues and says, La'olam yishtadel adam lorus likras malchei Yisrael, v'loi likras malchei Yisrael bilvad, ela afilu likras malchei Evdei Kechavim. A person should work hard on trying to go to see Jewish kings, and not kings of Israel, and not only should he try to go to Jewish kings, to kings of Israel, but he should even try to go to see non-Jewish kings. Why? She'im Yiska, if he will have the merit, Yavchin ben Malchi Yisrael and Malchi Evdei Kechavim, he will have the merit to see the difference between the honor accorded to non-Jewish kings, and that will be honored to Jewish kings, the kings of Israel. The Gemara continues with a long story. I'll just say it by heart. The Gemara says that Rav Sheshes, who was a Sagi Noir, he was blind, and one day there was a commotion that the king was coming by near where Rav Sheshes was. So everyone was going, so Rav Sheshes went along with them. He was blind. So there was a tzduki, a non-believer, a heretic that noticed him. So the tzduki told him that when the complete pitchers go to the river, but a broken pitcher is not going to go to the river. Meaning, we all want to see the honor of the king. Well, we can see. You're blind. Why are you going? So Rav Sheshes told him, come along and you'll see. And you'll see that I'll know better than you. And they came, I guess, to the street where the king's entourage, you got it? The king's entourage was passing by, and so there was a whole bunch of groups of soldiers, etc., going by, and they were standing there on the sidelines, and then the first group went by, and there was a lot of noise, a lot of commotion. So this heretic tells Rav Sheshes, the king is here, the king is here. So Rav Sheshes said, no, it's not the king, he's not here yet. And it wasn't, it was some of the other officials. A second group went by, and again there was a big commotion, and again the tzduki tells Rav Sheshes, the king is here. He said, no, it's not him. Till the third and final entourage came, which was the king himself, and then it was quiet. So Rav Sheshes quoted a pasuk where it says, what Hashem is telling Eliyahu Hanavi, to go hide in the mountain, and Hashem tells him, you'll be in the mountain, you'll be there, and you're going to stand over there, you're going to see a stormy wind will pass by, and then there's going to be a thunder, and then there's going to be fire, and after that it's going to be a koil demama daka, quiet voice, and that's where I'm going to be. So Rav Sheshes said, so it's by the quietness, that's where Hashem is, and the kings of this world are similar to the king of above, so therefore it must be that when it's quiet, that's where the king is, and he went and he got up and he said a bracha. And here it's important, what the Gemara says, is that the words that he said was, mevorech lei. Mevorech lei means he blessed to him. That's the Gemara by us in the nusach that we have in our Gemara. There's the Ein Yaakov, and the Ein Yaakov, the nusach of the Gemara is Mevorech Olei, with the ayin. The difference between lei and olei would be, Mevorech lei would mean blessing to him. Mevorech olei means blessing upon him. The difference would be, we had in last week's parsha, yes, when Yaakov Avinu met Parai, so he blessed him, so it says, it was a bircha shalom, it's basically greetings, when you're greeting an important person, so there's a bracha bircha shalom. Mevorech alei is a blessing on him, blessing on the noticing of the king. So there's a machlokes if Rav Sheshes actually made the bracha that the Gemara had mentioned before, which is the bracha of Baruch Shecholach Mikvoidei, Shenosa Mikvoidei Libri Yosef. The Gemara says Libri Yosef, but the Paiskim, the Gemara says that here also the Paiskim say Lebasar of Adam. Either he actually made this bracha, and some say he didn't make the bracha, he just greeted the king and gave the king his personal blessings. And the difference between the two gersais is whether a blind man is supposed to make this bracha or not. So this is the Gemara, and this is where it all begins. So there's first of all, when it comes to brachas in general, so that we know that there are three types of brachas. There's Birchas Hananin, Birchas HaMitzvahs, and then Birchas HaShevach V'Haidah. Birchas Hananin is before we enjoy anything from this world, whether it's food or drink or smell. So before a person wants to enjoy this world, he has to make a blessing, thanking Hashem, whether it's for the bracha on food or drink, etc. That's called Birchas Hananin, which is some kind of asking Hashem for permission. The second type of bracha is Birchas HaMitzvahs. Before we fulfill a mitzvah, putting on tefillin, putting on a talis, etc., we have to make a bracha, giving us, according to Chassidus, giving us the koyach, giving us the preparation that we fulfill this mitzvah properly. Then there's the Birchas HaShevach V'Haidah. Birchas HaShevach V'Haidah is a blessing of praise to Hashem. We are praising Hashem, we are thanking Hashem for all the wonderful things He did in this world. This bracha is the bracha of seeing a king is definitely not Birchas HaNehnin, and it's not Birchas HaMitzvahs. There's no Hana. Some people, again, if they would see the king today, they would definitely, the president would definitely say that you don't have Hana from it, but some people say to see the president tomorrow they won't have Hana. Every person has his preferences, but in any event, the bracha is definitely not about Hana. It's not a mitzvah, it's a bracha of Shevach V'Haidah. It's a bracha of praising Hashem and thanking Hashem for the greatness that He did in the world, that He gave from His honor, that He shared His honor with a human being. All right, so when it comes, the first question, I'll go with the second question, the answers will go more on the Lashon of Haraya. The question is, that Gemara says Haraya, someone that actually sees. Now we see Rav Sheshes didn't see, and nevertheless, according to some, the simple pshat in the Gemara is a continuation of the bracha that Rav Sheshes, even though he did not see the king, nevertheless he made this bracha. So it's not just a matter of seeing. The question is, seeing through television or seeing through internet, is that enough for a person to make a bracha on the king? So there's a tshuva in the Sefer B'Tzeil HaChochma. There were two brothers, famous Rabbanim. The last name was Stern. One of them was a Rav in Borough Park. He first was in Hungary, in Debrecen, and then later he moved to Borough Park. He was a Sefer Ber Moshe. His brother was a Rav in Australia, then later to Yisrael. B'Tzeil HaChochma. Australia. And he, B'Tzalel Stern. A lot of his tshuvas are about crossing the date line because he was in Australia. In any event, he writes. He brings from the Rambam. Yes, the Rambam's Yortzeit. He brings a Pirush HaMishnayos Rambam when it comes to Eidim and witnesses for any kind of thing, any kind of din Torah. So if the Eidim see something in a mirror, you're standing over here and there's a mirror and you ended up seeing through the mirror somebody doing something. Is that good enough for a testimony? Can you come to Beis and testify that I know for a fact this happened? The Rambam says you can't because the famous expression, objects in a mirror might be closer than they appear, so you don't have a proper understanding of what really happened, so you can't really testify based on the mirror. When it comes to video, it will be the same thing, even though it's a shidur chaya, a live hookup, it's also not a clear kind of seeing. So the B'Tzeil HaChochma says that this whole discussion is only regarding Eidim. Because by Eidim, when it comes to Eidim, witnesses testifying, what they want to testify is what they saw, and our question is, do they know 100% what they saw, if it's true or not? So here the question is, if they're seeing it through a video, through a mirror, maybe it's not a clear seeing, maybe they don't know 100%. However, when it comes to the king, seeing the king, it's not a matter of to knowing for sure that the king is here, because regardless if I saw the king is here either way. So when we're saying Haraya, it's obviously not just seeing, it's a matter of seeing and being there and sensing it, and being a part of it, feeling it. So
every day in the 6 o'clock news.
Huh?
If you're going to accept it,
You make a brush every time on CNN?
That's what he was asked. And he replied that obviously not, and that is because it's a matter of being there and sensing his honor, sensing his power. And people in power, so when you're with them, you sense something special. There's a doctor from Chicago, Dr. Ira Weiss. So he was the Rebbe's doctor in Tov Shalom at Ches after the Rebbe had the heart attack. So he said that he's been a doctor to many, many important people, celebrities, politicians, and he says that most people, these important people, when he gets to know them, so in the beginning he's awed, he sees that this person's a politician, whether he's a senator or a governor, there's something special about him which made him in this position. But after, the more he treats them, the more he gets to know them, the more he sees, okay, fine, they have something special about them which makes them unique. But other than that, the more he got to know them, he sees their human parts and more how they're regular people with a special power or talent that they have. He said when he was treating the Rebbe, it was like a mountain. A mountain from far, it looks big. The closer you get, the bigger it gets. You get closer, it's bigger and bigger and bigger. He said the Rebbe, the more he treated the Rebbe, the more he saw the Rebbe is getting greater and it never stopped. It never like, okay, now he's human. In any event, so when you're with an important person, you sense something, you feel something. And the Gemara is saying haraya doesn't just mean seeing, it means sensing it, like we see in the story of Rav Sheshes, that even before the king, he knew the king was down the road, but he didn't make the bracha yet because he didn't feel, he didn't sense it. When there was the quiet, he felt the awe of everybody around, that the king himself was walking by, that's when he made the bracha. So that's a clear thing which meant all the Rabban and Paskin, that it's only the whole bracha only applies when you actually see him. It's not a matter of, it's not seeing him in the person, seeing him in the flesh. But the biggest question is, what's the definition of the king? So there's a tshuva from the Radvaz, which is brought down the Magen Avram, and it's all based on a sefer called Sefer HaEshkel. Sefer HaEshkel is one of the early halachas farim, and he writes regarding, in those times there was, in the Sephardi countries, I know in Europe we call it apartheid always, but in the Sephardi countries they called them the Pacha or the Pasha, which was a person that was responsible, autonomous, how do you say, a person has his own empire amongst the big one? How do you say it? Autonomous. Self-ruling, right. So they would have like the king of the entire, let's say, the Ottoman Empire, and then there was like an autonomic empire, a governor, I don't know how to pronounce it, some kind of autonomy within the bigger empire. And these people, in certain instances, would have to answer to the Sultan, but in certain instances, they had their own power. So the Eshkel, the Sefer HaEshkel writes that these people, these pachas, these paritzim, that they had their own government, since they have the power to kill whoever they want at whim, and they don't have to answer to anybody else, therefore, one is obligated to make a bracha on these people, when the bracha of king as well. You have to, when you see such a leader, even though he's not the ultimate supreme ruler of his regime, there are other people on top of him. Nevertheless, since he has the power to kill, therefore you have to make the bracha when you see this person.
If he has the power to kill,
yes, definitely. That's for sure. Yes, right. According to this, because he was a king in his own right. Oh, so we'll get to that in a moment. The president doesn't have a power to kill. Who? A doctor has the power to kill. A doctor has to answer up by law. A doctor has the will, that since the law allows him to put someone to sleep, so then he has permission. But otherwise, he can't just decide, since I don't like somebody, I have to kill them. Yes?
Is there any relevance to the issue with if there's like a king, like in the story with when the Alter Rebbe was in jail and he sensed he knew the malacha. But he recognized that, he asked, how do you know I'm the Tsar, the king? He says, he saw his malacha. So my question is, does the President of the United States, does that have the same type of thing? Does he have a
so this is the question. The question is right now. So the Radvaz continues along that. He says the Radvaz lived in Mitzrayim before he moved to Israel. So he said that in Mitzrayim there was I'll answer your question soon. That's what we're going to try to get to. The Radvaz says that in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, where he lived at the time, so there was the ruler that had to answer to the Sultan, I guess, of the entire Ottoman Empire at the time, and that ruler was not able to kill at whim. However, and there were special times, a military tribunal or tribunal? Yeah. Tribunal. So he had the rights when it comes to such a situation where it was a time of emergency, he was able to kill. So Radvaz says, although regularly he cannot kill without answering up to the Sultan, but since there are times that he can kill, so therefore he should be able to, we should make the bracha. But Radvaz concludes that I'm not comfortable making a bracha on him, so let's make a bracha b'loi shemu malchus, meaning not saying baruch atah with Hashem's name, Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam, rather like people usually say when someone passes away, baruch dayan ha'emes. So over here we would say baruch shanasa mikvoide lebasar v'adam. So that's what Radvaz concludes. So on this Radvaz, which is the main source where it talks about the king needing the power of killing, of life and death. So there's an interesting twist that many Rabbanim say. They say that this only applies, the Sefer HaEshkel and the Radvaz are talking about someone who is not a supreme ruler. He had a sultan on top of him, and the sultan, he has to answer to the sultan. So therefore, if he has this unique power of putting someone to death, so then we say he deserves the bracha on his own right. But the sultan himself, the king himself, doesn't need that power to be deserving of the bracha. So according to that, the President of the United States, although he cannot decide to kill someone, but nevertheless, since he is there's no ruler on top of him, so he should be deserving of this bracha. That's what some Rabbanim say.
The President of the United States can order drone strikes, though. So,
But it cannot, but it's a drone strike against an enemy. It's not against an innocent person. Although there might be civilians hurt, but it's all part of war.
So it has to be.
And also, yeah, it has a free person. Huh? Yeah. So that's what some Rabbanim come and say, but then there's a Chassam Sofer. The Chassam Sofer writes that the whole gather of the melech, a gather of a king that deserving a bracha is lahamis or lahachis, that he can kill, he can put to death, and he can give life. What does it mean that a king can give life? So this means a pardon. If a king can pardon, so then, although he doesn't have the right to kill, he has the right to pardon someone, and therefore, so that's my question that I need to ask the lawyers. The president can pardon somebody from a federal crime.
He just pardoned 1,000 people.
But people that all committed federal crimes, if I understand correctly, is there any federal crime which is deserving of capital punishment? Does the federal government ever give...
The guy was a spy against the United States and he gave secrets off to the Russians.
And then the president can pardon him? And the president can pardon someone that's on death row? Someone that's on death row? That's my question.
If Snowden was somehow moved back to the United States and put on trial and decided that he was treasonous, the President of the United States could pardon him.
Okay, but so I didn't know that. But I do know that there was a while ago there was a Yid that Nebuch was he was put to death. He's in Florida, and I know that he killed a policewoman. He wasn't a religious Jew, and then he was on death row. And I know that they were going around asking people to sign a petition to the governor Jeb Bush, right, to ask him to pardon this person. Huh?
After Jeb Bush.
Wasn't Jeb Bush was the president, governor?
No, he was already out.
So whoever the governor was, so I understood from that petition that the governor has the right. So those states that have the penalty, the death penalty, those states, the governor has the right to pardon, right? The president cannot pardon someone that committed a state crime. Am I right? Right. So the governor of Georgia, back to our discussion, can pardon someone that has a death penalty.
Yeah.
What? And the president can't. Huh? What? So